You know that feeling when someone walks into your office and you can just tell they're about to screw everything up? It's like watching a tornado form on the horizon. You know it's coming, but you can't do anything to stop it. That's exactly what I felt when Jennifer Walsh strutted into our Monday morning meeting wearing a navy blazer that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. My name is Andrew Mitchell. I'm 54 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've been the Client Solutions Director at Atlas Manufacturing Solutions here in Detroit. Before that, I spent 10 years in Army logistics, moving everything from MREs to Humvees across half the world. When you've coordinated supply drops in Afghanistan, a delayed steel shipment in Cleveland doesn't make you break a sweat. Atlas isn't some Silicon Valley startup with ping-pong tables and kombucha on tap. We're old-school manufacturing support, the kind of company that keeps America's factories running when everything else falls apart. Our bread and butter is solving problems that can't be fixed with an app or a PowerPoint slide. When a production line goes down, we're the ones who make the phone calls, pull the strings, and get things moving again. Our biggest client, Thompson Steel Works, has been with us for 15 years, $680 million in annual contracts. That's real money in the real economy. Not some inflated tech valuation, but actual steel and machinery moving through actual factories. Michael Thompson runs a third-generation family business out of Pittsburgh, the kind where everyone knows everyone's kids' names and a handshake still means something. His grandfather started the company with a hammer and an anvil back in 1952. Now they supply engine components to Ford, GM, and half the manufacturing plants between here and Chicago. Michael and I have a rhythm that took years to build. We speak the same language, the language of deadlines that matter, quality that can't be faked, and relationships that outlast quarterly earnings reports. When he calls me at 6 a.m. because there's a problem at the port in Cleveland, I don't tell him to submit a ticket. I grab my coffee and start making calls. Then came Jennifer. Our CEO, a guy whose biggest decision used to be choosing between glazed and chocolate donuts for the monthly meeting, decided we needed digital transformation. Translation: his 29-year-old niece just finished her Stanford MBA and needed somewhere to practice her buzzword vocabulary. Jennifer Walsh, VP of Digital Transformation, a title that somehow made me think of robots taking over a steel mill. She waltzed into our all-hands meeting like she was about to deliver the keynote at South by Southwest, wireless clicker in hand, energy that could power the Ford Rouge plant, and enough confidence to sell ice to Eskimos in January. "Team," she announced, clapping her hands together like she was calling a kindergarten class to attention. "We're not just manufacturing solutions anymore, we're ecosystem orchestrators. We're going to leverage AI-driven optimization to revolutionize traditional paradigms and maximize stakeholder value through disruptive innovation." I sat in the back row taking notes in my old composition notebook, the same kind I'd used in the Army. 30 years in this business, and I've seen this movie more times than I care to count. Young hotshot MBA comes in, breaks everything that actually works, collects a promotion, and moves on to the next company before the damage becomes obvious. Usually I just keep my head down, protect my clients from their stupidity, and wait for them to implode. It's a survival mechanism that served me well. But this time felt different. Jennifer's eyes scanned the room during her presentation, cataloging everyone like she was taking inventory. When they landed on me, there was this look, not quite recognition, more like assessment. She saw a middle-aged guy in a flannel shirt and work boots sitting in the back row. She saw the past. She saw someone who probably didn't have a LinkedIn profile with buzzwords like synergistic and paradigm shifting. What she didn't see was someone who'd spent Christmas morning in 2019 on a satellite phone with customs agents in Hamburg because a paperwork error threatened to delay Thompson's New Year delivery. She didn't see someone who'd personally driven a rental truck full of replacement parts through a Michigan blizzard to keep their production line running when UPS declared the roads impassable. She didn't see the guy who knew the first names of dock workers from Detroit to Baltimore, or who could get a priority shipping container moved with a single text message to the right person. After the meeting, our CEO practically dragged Jennifer over to my desk like a nervous parent introducing his kid to the school principal. "Jennifer, this is Andrew Mitchell," he said, sweating slightly despite the air conditioning. "He handles the Thompson account. It's our cornerstone client, our biggest relationship." Jennifer smiled, but it was the kind of smile you'd get from a car salesman right before he tells you about the extended warranty. Professional, but not warm. Calculated. "Andrew, pleasure to meet you," she said, extending a hand that felt like shaking a piece of wet lettuce. "I've heard interesting things about your work here. You've been on this account for quite a while, haven't you?" 15 years, I said, keeping my voice neutral and professional. 15 years, she repeated with a little laugh that didn't sound particularly amused. "That's a lifetime in today's business environment. Don't you think it might be time for some fresh thinking? Maybe optimize the relationship dynamics a bit?" I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my expression neutral. After 3 decades in business, you learn to control your reactions. Michael Thompson values consistency and reliability. He's not particularly fond of change for the sake of change. "Oh, Andrew," she said with that same calculated smile, already checking her phone like she had somewhere more important to be. "Everyone loves change if you package it correctly and present the right value proposition." She pulled out her tablet and started swiping through what looked like charts and graphs. "I've been analyzing the numbers on your account, Andrew. We're definitely over-servicing this client. Too much hand-holding, too many personal touches. We're leaving significant efficiency gains on the table." I took a slow breath. "Jennifer, we're not selling efficiency metrics. We're selling reliability and trust. That's what Michael Thompson pays for." "Everyone says that," she said, dismissing my 30 years of experience with a wave of her hand. "But that's exactly the legacy mindset we need to disrupt. Nobody walks away from a $680 million contract over service optimization. He's got you wrapped around his finger, and frankly, it's holding us back from scaling." There it was. Legacy mindset. Like 3 decades of building relationships and solving real problems was some kind of disease that needed curing. "I want you to set up a quarterly review for next week," she continued, her fingers already flying across her tablet screen. "I'll be presenting our new service optimization strategy. We need data visualization, predictive analytics, maybe some AI integration concepts. Time to show him what a modern partnership looks like." I stared at her for a long moment. The Thompson Quarterly Review wasn't a presentation. It was a conversation. Michael and I sat in his office with coffee from his ancient Mr. Coffee machine, and we talked about real problems: steel prices, shipping delays, quality control issues. He didn't do PowerPoint decks or data visualization. He did business the way his father and grandfather had done business, with handshakes and straight talk. "Jennifer," I said carefully, "Michael Thompson doesn't like formal presentations. He's more of a practical, face-to-face kind of—" "Book it," she interrupted, already walking away toward the elevator. "And send me all your historical data by Friday. I'll need to modernize the entire approach. This is going to be great, Andrew. You're going to love what strategic thinking can do for your little relationship." I watched her go, her heels clicking across the concrete floor like machine gun fire. She'd just ordered me to build a bomb and aim it directly at the foundation of everything I'd spent 15 years building. That weekend, I put together what I always prepared for Thompson meetings: a simple 3-page briefing document, on-time delivery percentages for the quarter, quality control metrics, cost savings from our latest process improvements, facts and numbers that actually mattered to someone running a manufacturing operation, the kind of boring, practical information that keeps production lines running and workers employed. Jennifer, apparently, had other ideas. Wednesday morning prep session. I walked into the main conference room with my briefing folder, and she was already there, laptop connected to the big screen, looking like a general planning a military campaign. She'd created a 38-slide presentation titled "Synergizing Industrial IoT Ecosystems, a Strategic Partnership Evolution." I felt a migraine starting to form behind my left eye just reading the title. "Andrew, check out this opener," she said, practically bouncing with excitement. She clicked to the first slide, which featured a stock photo of diverse people in hard hats high-fiving in front of what looked like a steel mill. The text overlay read, "Tomorrow's Manufacturing, Today's Strategic Vision." "Jennifer," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice level, "Michael Thompson is going to want to know why his steel shipment was delayed in Cleveland last month and exactly how we fixed it. He's going to want to know about the new quality control protocols we implemented after that supplier issue in Pittsburgh." She waved her hand like she was swatting away an annoying fly. "Details, Andrew. You're way too deep in the operational weeds. This is strategic thinking time. We need him to see that we're not just another vendor. We're a technology-enabled partnership platform. We don't use half the technology you're showing in these slides, I pointed out. It's aspirational, she said without missing a beat. Forward-looking, visionary. For the next 2.5 hours, I watched her systematically dismantle everything I'd learned about Michael Thompson over 15 years of working together. Every time I tried to insert a slide about actual operational performance, she deleted it. Too dense, she'd say, or not compelling enough for a C-suite audience. She replaced my analysis of Q3 delivery improvements with a slide featuring a cartoon rocket ship and the words "Journey to Operational Excellence." I am absolutely not making this up. There was actually a cartoon rocket ship in a presentation meant for a 67-year-old man whose company made engine components for Ford trucks. Jennifer, I tried one last time, desperation starting to creep into my voice. Michael Thompson is 67 years old. His grandfather started this company with basic tools and determination. His father expanded it during the boom years after World War II. If you show him cartoon rocket ships and talk about paradigm shifts, he's going to think we're either mocking him or completely out of touch with reality. She stopped clicking through slides and turned to face me directly. For just a moment, the enthusiastic corporate mask slipped, and I saw what was underneath. Pure, undiluted arrogance. You know what, Andrew? I'm getting significant resistance from you on this initiative. I was told you were a team player who understood the value of collaboration. The team player trap. The moment you disagree with a fundamentally bad idea, you become difficult and resistant to change. I'm trying to protect a 15-year relationship that brings in more revenue than any other client we have, I said. No, she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. You're trying to protect your personal territory. You've been gatekeeping this client for years, and maybe that's exactly why the account has plateaued. You're afraid of innovation because it exposes how much you've been coasting on old relationships instead of creating real value. Coasting. I thought about the Christmas morning I spent on a conference call with customs agents in 3 different time zones because a documentation error threatened Thompson's year-end delivery schedule. I thought about the time I personally flew to Pittsburgh with replacement hydraulic components in my carry-on luggage because FedEx was grounded due to weather. I thought about the 6 a.m. phone calls, the weekend troubleshooting sessions, the countless times I'd moved heaven and earth to make sure Michael Thompson's production lines kept running. Look, Jennifer said, checking her Apple Watch like she had somewhere more important to be, here's what we're going to do. I don't actually need you to present it all. Clearly, you're not aligned with our new strategic vision. I'll handle all the client communication. You can just sit there and, I don't know, take notes or something. Answer basic technical questions if he gets too deep into operational minutia. But let me drive the strategic conversation. She was cutting me out of my own meeting, sidelining me from a relationship I'd built and maintained for 15 years, reducing me to a note-taker in my own conference room. A younger version of me would have fought back, would have marched straight to the CEO's office and demanded she be overruled, would have made phone calls, sent emails, rallied support from other department heads. But I looked at Jennifer, at her unearned confidence, her complete dismissal of everything I'd learned about business over 3 decades, her absolute certainty that innovation always trumps experience, and something inside me shifted. It was the shift from employee to strategist, from defender to architect. Okay, I said quietly. She looked genuinely surprised. She'd expected resistance, maybe even a confrontation. You're the VP, I said, closing my notebook with deliberate calm. If this is the direction you want to take the Thompson relationship, I'll support your decision. Great, she said, clapping her hands together again. See? That wasn't so difficult. We're going to absolutely crush this presentation, Andrew. This is going to be a paradigm shift for everyone involved. I walked back to my desk feeling strangely calm. My hands weren't shaking from anger anymore. They were steady with purpose. I sat down and opened a new folder on my computer. I named it Exit Strategy and started documenting everything. The meeting was scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. Michael Thompson arrived at 9:58 like always. Punctuality was something his generation took seriously. It was a sign of respect, not just efficiency. He's the kind of man who commands attention not by being loud or flashy, but by being substantial. Gray hair, hands that showed the wear of real work. wearing a wool jacket that had probably cost more than Jennifer's monthly car payment but looked like he'd owned it for 20 years. "Andrew," he said, shaking my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd spent his youth working with actual tools. "Good to see you. You too, Michael. How's Patricia?" I asked about his wife like I always did. "Still trying to get me to retire and take that European river cruise," he said with the slight smile of a man who'd been married for 40 years. Still telling her that steel doesn't make itself. Before I could respond, Jennifer swept into the conference room like she was making an entrance at an awards ceremony. "Mr. Thompson," she announced, her voice carrying that artificial enthusiasm that makes everyone in the room slightly uncomfortable. "Jennifer Walsh, VP of Digital Transformation. I'm such a huge admirer of what you've built with Thompson Steel. Really disruptive work in the manufacturing space." Michael looked at her extended hand, then at her face, processing what she'd just said. He shook her hand briefly like he was touching something he wasn't quite sure about. "Disruptive?" He repeated the word slowly, rolling it around like it tasted strange. "Miss Walsh, my family makes steel and precision components. We don't disrupt anything. We deliver exactly what we promise, when we promise it, at the quality we specify." "Exactly," Jennifer said, completely missing the correction. "But how we deliver, that's where the real innovation opportunity lies. Please have a seat. I think you're going to be very excited about what we have planned." Michael sat at the head of the conference table, the same seat he'd occupied for every quarterly meeting over the past 15 years. I took my usual spot to his right, close enough to answer questions, positioned to read his body language and reactions. Jennifer dimmed the lights like she was about to start a movie and clicked her presentation remote. "Gentlemen," she announced, "let's talk about the future of industrial partnership." The first slide hit the screen. Synergizing Industrial IoT Ecosystems, a Strategic Partnership Evolution. I heard Michael inhale slowly through his nose. It was a sound I recognized from 15 years of meetings, the same controlled breath he took when someone quoted him an unrealistic price or promised a delivery date they couldn't meet. Jennifer launched into her presentation like she was giving a keynote at a technology conference. Vertical integration of innovative solutions. Blue sky optimization protocols. She used the phrase paradigm shift 6 times in the first 10 minutes, ecosystem another 8 times, and synergistic value creation enough times that I stopped counting. Michael wasn't looking at the screen. He was looking at his hands, folded carefully on the mahogany conference table, completely still, completely focused. I'd seen that look before. It was the same expression he wore when he was calculating whether a supplier was wasting his time. 15 minutes into the presentation, Jennifer clicked to what I knew was coming, the rocket ship slide. "We want to take your manufacturing capabilities into the stratosphere," she said, gesturing at the cartoon with the enthusiasm of someone presenting a Nobel Prize-winning discovery. Michael raised one hand exactly 2 inches off the table, the universal signal for stop. Jennifer stopped mid-sentence, her mouth still open. "Where's the Q3 operational report?" Michael asked. His voice was quiet, measured, and absolutely deadly. "Well," Jennifer stammered, clearly not having expected to be interrupted during her carefully choreographed presentation, "we're looking forward strategically here, Michael. The Q3 numbers are available in the appendix if you really want to dig into historical data. I had 3 shipments delayed coming out of Cleveland last week," Michael said, his voice remaining perfectly level. "Andrew fixed the problem. I want to know why it happened in the first place. I want to know the variance on our raw material costs for this quarter. I want to know why your new inventory tracking system crashed twice on Monday and delayed our production schedule by 4 hours." Jennifer went pale. She didn't know about any of this. She hadn't read my briefings. She hadn't listened to a single word I'd said about what Michael Thompson actually cared about. "Right," Jennifer said, sweat starting to bead on her forehead despite the air conditioning. "Technical hiccups, growing pains with system integration. If you look at the holistic strategic picture..." "Andrew," Michael said, turning his chair to face me completely. He ignored Jennifer like she'd suddenly become invisible. "Explain the Cleveland situation." I opened my mouth to respond. I had the numbers memorized. A dock worker's slowdown combined with a routing software glitch that I'd manually overridden by calling in favors from 3 different trucking companies I'd worked with for years. But before I could get a single word out, Jennifer stepped directly between us. She literally positioned herself between me and the client, blocking my line of sight to Michael. "Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice taking on a condescending tone that made my blood run cold. "Andrew doesn't need to bore you with operational minutiae. He's support staff. He handles the day-to-day tickets and logistics coordination. I'm here to discuss strategic partnership evolution. We can have the technical team email you a detailed report if you really need those specific details. Support staff. 15 years of building relationships, missed holidays, weekend emergency calls, millions of dollars in cost savings and crisis management. Support staff." The room went absolutely silent. Michael stared at Jennifer with an expression I'd never seen before in 15 years of working with him. Pure, cold disbelief mixed with something that looked like disgust. I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping against the floor was loud in the deadly quiet conference room. "Andrew," Jennifer turned, looking annoyed rather than panicked, which showed just how completely she'd misread the situation. "We're in the middle of a strategic presentation here." "You're absolutely right, Jennifer," I said. My voice was calm. Frighteningly calm. "I'm just support staff. And it sounds like you have the strategic relationship completely under control." I picked up my notebook and my pen, the same Mont Blanc my father had given me when I got out of the army, and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Jennifer hissed, real panic finally creeping into her voice as she realized something was going very wrong. I looked at Michael Thompson, held his gaze for a long, meaningful moment. 30 years of business relationships, and I could read him like an operations manual. "I'm excusing myself from this strategic discussion," I said. "Wouldn't want to bore anyone with the minutiae." "Andrew, sit down," Jennifer barked, her voice cracking with desperation. "You can't just walk out on a client meeting." I didn't turn around. I opened the heavy conference room door and stepped into the hallway. As it closed behind me, I heard Michael's voice for the first time all morning. Loud, clear, and absolutely final. "Turn the lights back on, Miss Walsh. We need to have a very different conversation." I walked straight to the elevator, didn't stop at my desk, didn't pack my things, didn't explain myself to anyone. I pressed the button for the parking garage and felt something I hadn't felt in years: complete freedom. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my truck. "Jennifer, get back here immediately." The CEO. "What's happening up there?" More texts, more missed calls. I turned the phone off completely and drove home to my small house in suburban Detroit. I spent the afternoon on my back deck drinking coffee and watching my neighbor work in his garden. Around 4 p.m., I turned my phone back on. It vibrated continuously for 2 full minutes. 31 missed calls, 47 text messages. Then one message popped up from a number I knew by heart. "Michael Thompson." That was the most educational presentation I've seen in 25 years of running this company. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Me. I aimed to please. "Michael, she doesn't know anything about our business, does she?" Me. "She knows a lot about rocket ships." "Michael, I'm flying back to Pittsburgh tonight. We need to talk, not about this contract, about your future." Me. "My non-compete restricts me from soliciting current clients for 12 months. Michael, "Good thing I'm not being solicited. Are you legally clear if I ask you to work with us?" I pulled out my employment contract and found page 14, section 8B. He was exactly right. The language was specific about me approaching clients, not about clients approaching me. Me. "Completely clear." Michael. "Excellent. Let her wonder what happened for a week. I'm suspending all renewals pending a complete operational review." 2 days later, I submitted my resignation. Not because I was angry, because I was strategic. I'd spent 30 years learning this business, and I wasn't going to waste that knowledge working for people who called experience a liability. The corporate revenge was swift and comprehensive. Within a week of Michael pulling his contract, 3 other family-owned manufacturers followed suit. Word travels fast in the industrial Midwest, and nobody wanted to work with a company that treated veteran employees like disposable overhead. Jennifer was gone before my 2-week notice was up. Security walked her out through the loading dock so the remaining board members wouldn't see the humiliation. Atlas Manufacturing lost $240 million in contracts in 3 weeks and was eventually sold to a private equity firm that gutted it for parts. I opened Mitchell Industrial Consulting in a small office near the Detroit River. Michael was my first client at the same rates Atlas had charged, but without the corporate overhead eating into both our profits. Within 6 months, I had 18 employees handling $240 million in contracts for manufacturers who valued experience over innovation theater. The best part? Jennifer tried to connect with me on LinkedIn last month. Her message read, "No hard feelings about the corporate restructuring, right? Business is business. I'm launching an AI-powered supply chain optimization startup. Would love to pick your brain about the industry." I didn't block her. I didn't respond. I just left her on red. Because that's what support staff does. We support the people who deserve it. And when we stop supporting those who don't, their whole operation falls apart. I'm writing this from my office, looking out at the Detroit River where barges carry steel to factories across the Great Lakes. Real products, real jobs, real relationships that matter. My phone rings. Michael Thompson. "Andrew, we've got a situation in Chicago. Railroad strike. They're saying 5-day minimum delay." "Already handled," I say. "Remember Danny from Great Lakes Trucking? Called in a favor. Your components will be on the road in 3 hours. You're worth every penny, Andrew. I know. Some things never go out of style. Experience, reliability, respect. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply being exactly who you've always been."